So, folks, we gotta talk about Jeffrey Epstein. Now, there has been an unusual development with the Epstein files, which is that there are some problems with the documents. It turns out some of them are missing, and no one can really adequately explain why. And it seems like those documents are related to specifically one case wherein a woman accused Donald Trump of sexually assaulting her in the 1980s. And this is now being reported by the New York Times. Epstein files are missing records about woman who made claim against Trump. Several memos related to her account are not in the files. And the existence of the memos was revealed in an index listing the investigative materials related to her account, which was publicly released. According to that index, the FBI conducted 4 interviews in connection with her claims and wrote summaries about each one. Now, to be clear, the FBI typically only interviews someone that they believe is a credible witness or source. The fact that they did 4 is pretty interesting. But only one of the summaries, which describes her accusations against Mr. Epstein, was released by the Justice Department. The other 3 interview summaries are missing. The public files also do not include the underlying interview notes, which the index also indicates are part of the file. The Justice Department released similar interview notes in connection to FBI interviews with other potential witnesses and victims. It's unclear why the materials are missing. Gee whiz. I just can't think of any reason. Now, also, an interesting development from 5 days ago, potentially unrelated. Are the 3 Trump related? Yes, the 3 other interview summaries would be related to her claims against Donald Trump.
As Now's Carol Lutnick and Ken Delanian are reporting that the FBI has just fired at least 7 FBI agents and support staff as a result of their role in the classified documents case. This is involving records Donald Trump kept at his club at Mar-a-Lago. Now, that is according to 3 people familiar with the matter. An FBI spokesperson did not immediately respond to a request for comment on the terminations. Well, MS Now senior...
Now, these firings are allegedly to do with handling of the documents case at Mar-a-Lago. But I'm also kind of wondering if it might be related to other things that they did specifically with the Epstein files. Because we know the FBI had a lot of their agents handling these files. Now, I know that might seem a little bit conspiratorial, and maybe that's a stretch, and that's fair. That's fair. Okay? But also, CNN followed up with this, and found dozens of FBI records apparently missing from the Epstein files, including Trump accuser interviews. So the New York Times apparently downplaying a lot of their claims here, even the more explosive ones. An evidence log provided to attorneys for Epstein associate Ghislaine Maxwell includes serial numbers for about 325 FBI witness interview records, but more than 90 of those records, over a quarter of the list, don't appear to be present on the DOJ website, according to CNN's review. So, to be clear here, Ghislaine Maxwell was given more files than the FBI has released to the public. And the question here becomes, if the FBI had them for Ghislaine Maxwell, why don't they have them for the legally, congressionally mandated release of the Epstein files? Over 90 witness document records. Why are they missing? When reached out to comment, the DOJ, of course, denied that any Epstein records have been deleted and stressed that the department was following the law. We have not deleted anything. And we have always said all documents responsive were produced. Documents not provided were duplicates, privileged, or part of an ongoing federal investigation. But they did not respond to requests about specific files. So the Epstein cover-up continues to rev into high gear here. Now, NPR was one of the first places to find this. Some files have not been made public despite a law mandating their release. These include what appear to be more than 50 pages of FBI interviews, as well as notes from conversations with a woman who accused Trump of sexual abuse decades ago when she was a minor. That's interesting. The Justice Department declined to answer NPR's questions. On the record. So interesting here, isn't it? Here is Representative Yasamin Ansari speaking about this.
Now know that the Department of Justice, in their ongoing cover-up, the most cover-up in American history, intentionally seem to have redacted more or withheld more than 50 pages of allegations from a minor against President Trump. Do not forget that Kash Patel went in front of the Senate Judiciary Committee and said under oath that the FBI had no credible allegations of any other people being involved in this child sex trafficking operation. These documents that the Department of Justice intentionally has withheld from the American public in regard to the allegations against President Trump came from the FBI. The FBI had interviewed this witness 4 times. You do not do that if it is not serious. So Kash Patel needs to be immediately brought back before the Oversight Committee. He needs to answer these questions again, and we need answers immediately. Again, America is watching. Young people in this country are watching to see if powerful people will continue to protect other powerful people and whether or not Congress will actually hold these perpetrators accountable. Now, no.
Yeah, I wonder if Congress will do that under Republicans. Anyway, apparently the the Trump administration had this photo that had previously been released to the American public through the Epstein files, appeared to be taken offline. And, looks like that's Jeffrey Epstein and, Howard Lutnick on Epstein's Island. Interesting. Almost like this administration is just protecting itself and protecting its own power. And, 4 days ago, Democrats say they have the votes to subpoena Lutnick and Epstein probe. So one of the things that appears to at least be chugging along, despite everything else happening right now, is that enough Republicans are splitting from Trump in order to vote alongside Democrats to subpoena more of these people implicated in the Epstein files, which is good. That is an unambiguously good sign. Also, we're finding out a lot about different government investigations into Epstein that were not previously widely reported on or known about. For example, just a few days ago, CBS reported that apparently the DEA was monitoring Jeffrey Epstein. So, a leading Senate Democrat is calling on U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration to provide information on a long-running and long-secret investigation into possible drug trafficking and suspicious financial transactions involving Jeffrey Epstein and 14 alleged co-conspirators. This is based on a heavily redacted 69-page DEA memo found in the Epstein files. In addition to sex trafficking, it appears that the Epstein and his associates were under investigation by the DEA for other major crimes, including illicit drug trafficking and money laundering, according to Senator Ron Wyden. And the DEA memo, marked sensitive but unclassified, was among more than 3 million pages of documents released by the Justice Department so far. And the memos from 2015 refers to a DEA organized crime drug enforcement task force probe nicknamed Chain Reaction. It noted that the case was opened in 2010 in New York and was judicial pending, indicating that the investigation remained active at the time the memo was drafted 5 years later. There's another entire investigation into Jeffrey Epstein and 14 other guys for financial crimes. And we are just finding out about this now. And the fact that this was all swept under the rug by the Trump administration, by past administrations even, Well, that's pretty interesting to say the least. And I want to add one more thing, which is we don't know exactly when this DEA investigation ended, but we do know that another investigation was ended by the Trump administration back in 2019. Remember how a few days ago I talked about how New Mexico was opening an investigation into the Zorro Ranch, which was owned by Jeffrey Epstein and was another site where he would abuse children along with his rich friends. Do you guys remember that? Well, it turns out that's not the first time New Mexico has investigated what happened at the Zorro Ranch. So, the Albuquerque Journal today published this, okay? Or, sorry, 2 days ago. Feds asked New Mexico to halt its Epstein probe. Federal prosecutors in 2019, under the Trump administration, asked New Mexico officials to halt their investigation into sex trafficking activities at Jeffrey Epstein's Zorro Ranch, agreeing to share information that potentially could have led to criminal charges here. New Mexico lived up to its end of the agreement, ending its investigation and providing police reports, recorded witness interviews, and other investigative records to the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of New York, former Attorney General Hector Balderas said last week. Balderas, who served as Attorney General from 2014 to 2022, said he is unaware that federal investigators provided any information to New Mexico officials that could have led to criminal prosecutions here. Cooperation between the two agencies was a one-way relationship, he said. So let's just get this clear. Back in 2019, the Trump administration ended an investigation into what happened at Zorro Ranch. I wonder why. There was no follow-up. I wonder why. And let's take a look at how the local reporting around Zorro Ranch has gone so far.
In the meantime, tonight, a memorial is now growing outside the former Zorro Ranch, the property that once belonged to Jeffrey Epstein, a little south of Santa Fe. It comes just days after our New Mexico Department of Justice announced they wanted to reopen an investigation to find out what happened at the ranch. Alika Medina met with organizers just outside the gates to learn why they made the long trip to make that memorial.
Dozens of people gathered outside what used to be known as Zorro Ranch to set up a memorial and demand justice. They want victims to know you're seen, heard, and they believe you.
We had come up in here and they asked why we were chasing a 5-year-old story. Didn't we have anything better to do? And they kind of threatened us, and we were able to leave, and that's when we came up with something better.
With security standing by, keeping a close eye, Kathy Barber and Kathy Kunda took it upon themselves to start a memorial outside San Rafael Ranch, what was once known as Zorro Ranch, with one message.
Not to let anyone be forgotten. Right. And not to let the stories, we want conviction.
We see you, we hear you, we believe you.
We want conviction. I want conviction. There's no doubt about that.
Jeffrey Epstein bought Zorro Ranch in the early 90s. No charges were ever filed against him in New Mexico, but state prosecutors said back in 2019 they interviewed possible victims who visited the ranch. And just the thought brought emotions during a prayer.
I don't know if you've seen the videos. I can't imagine that level of fear. I can't imagine that. I can't imagine what they had to endure. They need to get out here and start investigating.
They're hoping the memorial sitting outside will serve as a wake-up call.
There's victims here on this property that absolutely never got a chance, and we want to be that chance for them and be their voice and let it be known, what this is all about. It's disgusting. We're outraged. And like we said, love Trump's hate.
Organizers say they will hold another rally towards the end of March. Of course, we will have those details on KOB.com.
Isn't that now a Christian church camp? Yeah, the guy who owns it now, I think, is running to be like the state comptroller for Texas, and has said he wants to turn Zorro Ranch into a Christian Bible camp. So that's a thing that's happening. And this same local news station also was able to reveal some of the photographs from inside Zorro Ranch.
We're finally getting to look inside Jeffrey Epstein's Zorro Ranch in our state through some new photos. Epstein and his estate owned the Santa Fe County property until 2023. That's when former Texas State Senator Donald Huffines bought it. Now, these new photos of the property are from an insurance company, and they were taken when Epstein was still alive. I mean, you can see just how big the property is. Multiple offices, cabins, barns, buildings. I mean, look at the large pool inside. Then you have a great room right there with that huge chandelier. At the time, there was also a fire truck, tanker, and trailer on the property, as well as a firehouse and storage facility. Meanwhile, there is a growing memorial on the property's outskirts paying tribute to Epstein's victims and survivors.
And we just saw that coverage. Are they thinking there are possibly remains on those grounds? Yeah, there is a growing belief, I based on some of the allegations in the Epstein files or FBI tips that perhaps that there were girls who were killed. There have been allegations. No proof has been found yet about that, but that there are people who believe that. Yes, I would need to see more. I would need to see more proof, frankly. And I don't know if we'll ever get more proof, but that has been alleged. And again, I just hope that any investigation into Zorro Ranch still is able to bear some fruit, because it is especially infuriating, and I really want to know what happened to all of those files that New Mexico turned over to the federal government. Kind of seems pretty weird that all of those disappeared, huh? Pretty weird. And I want to play this speech by Robert Garcia. This committee has now set a new precedent about talking to presidents and former presidents, Garcia said in a press conference during a break in Hillary Clinton's deposition. We are demanding immediately that we ask President Trump to testify in front of our committee and be deposed in front of oversight Republicans and Democrats. Essentially, they brought in Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton to be deposed as part of the Epstein investigation. And now they are using that to try and essentially try to pressure Donald Trump to come in and be deposed. I don't think that's going to happen without some extraordinarily significant revelations, but it's worth a shot to try ramping up that pressure more and more and more as time goes on. Can we see the depositions? They are very long. I don't really want to, I don't really have the inclination to sit through the deposition footage. That being said, here's the 2-minute or so outburst. Lauren Boebert was in the deposition room and was taking photographs of Hillary Clinton, I guess, and posting them online, which was a violation of the terms of the deposition. So Democrats were really upset about this. Here's Hillary Clinton being upset about it in real time.
That Donald Trump should be deposed by this committee?
Absolutely. You know, I was a lawyer, and as a lawyer, you would look for pattern and practice. If you were deposing a witness in a case that you were trying, if you were in court, what did you know about this person? What you knew could influence how you questioned that person, how you tried the case. Donald Trump has been held civilly liable for sexual assault by a jury of his peers. 9 members of a jury found him liable in the sexual assault of E. Jean Carroll. That is behavior. That fits a pattern if one were looking for a pattern. He has also been convicted on 34 felony counts for attempting to hide his relationship with an escort. and then to commit business fraud to prevent it from becoming public in the 2016 campaign, which was ultimately election interference. So if I were running the committee or I were involved in this investigation, I would be looking for people who maybe had some prior conduct that might be relevant to either money or crimes. And yes, I think that it would be in keeping with the scope of the investigation of this committee to set up a deposition with President Trump. I know he's been deposed many, many, many times. He's taken the Fifth Amendment many, many hundreds of times. So I'm not saying you're going to get a lot of information. But given what's in the files and given past and prior conduct, he would be on my witness list.
And finally, do you think that Donald Trump should be deposed by this?
Oh, sorry, this wasn't the outburst. This was actually just a genuinely good moment from Hillary Clinton. Which, you know, shockingly, we don't get very many of those, you know? Like, yeah, girl, go off. Get him deposed. Let's go. Yeah, the rare and infrequent Hillary W. Here's the clip I was talking about.
Information. Okay. I went to the fundraiser to support my friend Nita Lowy.
All right. Excuse me, can I interrupt?
I have
there
another.
Are photos that are being released of the secretary as she is testifying from inside this room. Can you please advise me as to whether or not that's permissible and consistent with the rules, particularly given that we have asked for a public hearing? If there are photos that are being released of the secretary as she is testifying, can you please explain how that
I'm done with this. If you guys are doing that, I am done. You can hold me in contempt from now until the cows come home. This is just typical behavior.
We will go off the record.
Oh, for heaven's sake.
So I would like to understand how that's permissible.
Before the hearing was. It doesn't matter. We all are abiding by the same rules.
I will take that down.
Yeah,
So
well.
I would like to take a break at this moment.
Yeah,
I'd like to have
I'm
a
done
conversation.
for now.
Go off the record. Go off the record.
Information.
Oh, God. You know, rare Hillary W's. She pissed? Yeah. Like her, like the Clintons, I believe, were trying to have an open hearing and were denied it. And so it was under agreed upon terms, this deposition. And Lauren Boebert just dipshitted her way through this and fucked it all up. I will take that down. Yeah, no, maybe you should have not done that. Yeah. Yet Hillary was ready to pick up the chair, you know? But anyway, folks, that's where we're at. You know, we have now an entirely new and uninvestigated place that Jeffrey Epstein was known to sexually abuse children and women. And that he would frequently invite his rich friends to. A huge property that he used and got political protection for by ingratiating himself with the political dynasty of the Kings in New Mexico. The Kings are a very powerful political family in New Mexico. And also, that same property is still being protected to this day by the Huffines family. Again, Don Huffines was is the guy who's in line to be the comptroller of Texas. You know, he's trying to run for that right now, and he's the one who wants to turn this into like a Christian Bible camp. But also, his son works in the Trump administration. His son Colin works in the Trump administration and helped buy this property with his LLC, which all feels really weird, doesn't it? It all feels real effing weird, doesn't it? And I just have to say, again, I don't like being conspiratorial on this channel, but this feels and seems, from all of the facts we have assembled here, like the Trump administration is trying desperately to cover something up. Because I can't get out of my head when thinking about Zorro Ranch that this is a property Jeffrey Epstein had for decades. He had it for decades. And what place might Donald Trump have had visited with Jeffrey Epstein? If not, Little St. James, Donald Trump might very well have gone to Zorro Ranch. They were best friends for decades. And it seems real weird that a lot of people in Donald Trump's orbit have seemed to cover up the crimes that happened on that estate. And the phrase that sticks in my head is when Donald Trump said something along the lines of, I never had the honor of being invited to Epstein Island. Yeah, he never had the privilege of traveling to Jeffrey Epstein's island. That is the phrase he used. And I feel like that is a very careful phrasing, because I think he visited other places with his best friend. And I think it might have been Zorro Ranch. So, all that being said, I think there's a whole lot left to investigate, and I think that specific memos disappearing related to Donald Trump, specific interviews disappearing related to allegations against Trump by witnesses, by victims, I think that is pretty important. The fact that the Trump DOJ made an entire investigation into Zorro Ranch disappear in 2019, I think that's really, really suspicious, and we need to be looking into that. So all that being said, let me know what you think down in the comments, and hit the like button, subscribe, and folks, we need to get organized. We need to get organized against these Republican Epstein class agents, effectively. We need to get organized against the people who are doing the dirty work for all these rich and powerful people. So get involved with your local Dems, get involved with your local DSA, show up to those meetings, and let's get some shit done. Let's make this country a better place. And I'd encourage you all, if you need help getting started on that journey, join our Discord, reach out to Gamergy for help joining your DSA, reach out to Dragonfly for help getting your local Dems more progressive and radicalizing them. And last but not least, I'm just going to say, let's keep going.
Riverboat Jack is coming to town. All the viewers gather round. Twitch and YouTube and switching streams. All that content is bursting the seams. Politics, dating, plenty more. Your sense of fashion, you'll adore. So grab your stuff and hop aboard. We're going straight to Jack's Discord. Riverboat Jack.